From Durban, South Africa, this is Waxing and Waning with me, Wayne. Sawubona. In this episode, we'll talk about step 3 on the money map. We will talk about consumer debt, such as car loans and student loans. These money map episodes can be applied to family finances as well as financial management in organizations. People and organizations are similar in that both people and organizations have access to debt. We both need emergency savings for rainy days or rainy months, and we both make giving a priority, or we should make giving a priority, whether to a charity or back to the community through concepts such as CSR, or corporate social responsibility. Be sure to download a copy of the Money Map. Get a free PDF copy of the Money Map by following the crown.org link in the episode description. You will want to keep an electronic or printed copy of this Money Map handy as you and your family or an organization work through the 7 steps. After listening to this episode, if you have not done so yet, listen to the episodes that introduce step 1 and step 2 on the Money Map. Also, consider listening to these Money Map episodes with somebody else, such as your spouse or another leader in your organization. So, step 3 includes the following. Pay off all our consumer debt. Consumer debts can include car loans, hospital bills, and student loans. Increase our emergency savings to 3 months of living expenses. And increase our giving. We'll focus the majority of this episode on paying off consumer debt. To add some context to our discussion, I'll give you some examples from Misty and my experience with consumer debt. In order to pay off all our consumer debt, Misty and I used the power of compounding. Yes, part of our situation to walk, or we use part of our situation to walk through the power of how compounding works. So 3 of our consumer debts were a hospital bill of over $5,000, a car loan of over $15,000, and student loan debt of over $20,000. So these 3 debts represented a total of $40,000 in consumer debt. Now let's look at the minimum monthly payment requirements for each of these 3 debts. So how much do we have to pay each month? For the hospital bill, we needed to pay $400. $300 for the car loan, and $200 towards our student loans. When adding together the monthly $400 hospital bill, the $300 car loan payment, and the $200 student loan payment, we paid a total of $900 a month towards these 3 consumer debts. Remember this figure, $900. This total of $900 is going to be important as we put the power of compounding to the test. Every month, we religiously made these 3 payments. January, $400 hospital, $300 car, $200 student loan. February, $400, $300, $200. March, $400, $300, $200, and on and on and on. As the months went by, we chipped away at these 3 debts. We tried very hard not to miss a payment. After 13 months of following this plan, our total hospital bill of $5,000 was paid off, largely because it was the smallest of the 3 debts. Remember, it was a $5,000 loan compared to the $15,000 car loan or the $20,000 student loan. Now is when the magic really began to happen. So the hospital bill is paid off. Thank God. To celebrate, we shared a meal and a bottle of wine at one of our favorite restaurants. Now here's the biggie. The following month, we took that $400 that we were paying to the hospital and we added it to our monthly car loan payment. Where our required monthly car payment had been $300, we now added the $400 onto it and started paying $700 a month on the car loan. What happened when we started making these jumbo car payments? It was a 4-year car loan. We paid off the car loan in 2 years. We also drastically reduced the total interest incurred on the car loan, therefore paying less for the car. So 6 months after paying off that hospital bill, the car loan was paid off. Praise God. What did we do? We celebrated. We shared a meal and a bottle of wine at one of our favorite restaurants. Again, here's the biggie. The following month, we took that $700 that we were paying on the car loan and added the entire $700 to our student loan debt. Remember, our required monthly student loan payment was about $200. While we were paying off the hospital bill and the car bill, we were still consistently paying that $200 each month to the student loan. But now we added that $700 car payment onto the $200 student loan payment. So we were now paying $900 a month on our student loan instead of that $200. So what happened? We greatly accelerated the paying off of our student loan debt and drastically reduced the total interest incurred on the student loan. I said earlier that $900 figure was an important figure. Here's why. When compounding, you do not reduce the amount you pay toward your consumer debt once you have paid off a debt. So if we began by paying $900 towards 3 debts, we keep paying $900 a month until we have paid off all our consumer debt. Let me tell you, it's tough. But in the end, it is 150% worth it. So this is how Misty and I used the power of compounding to pay off all our consumer debt. Instead of it maybe taking us 10 years to pay it all off, it took us about 5. We were then debt-free. Let freedom reign. Misty and I clearly remember that day in April 2013 when we made that final student loan payment. That feeling of freedom is difficult to describe, but there's nothing like it. King Solomon once said that the borrower is slave to the lender. Debt is a form of slavery. Paying off our consumer debt was like walking out of a prison as a free man, a free woman, a free couple. Here are 5 things to remember about compounding. Number 1, you can use compounding to pay off personal, family, and organizational debt. Number 2, make a list of all your consumer debts. For example, car, medical, etc. For each of these consumer debts, record the minimum monthly required payment. For example, our minimum monthly requirement for the hospital bill was $400. The car, $300, and the student loan, $200. The fourth step, or the fourth thing to remember, add up all these monthly payments to determine the total amount you will pay toward consumer debts each month. Remember in our example above, it was $900 for those 3 debts. You will want to remember this total figure amount throughout the compounding process. So if your total monthly debt payment amount is $800, then until you have paid off all your debts, you'll spend $800 a month on your consumer debt. And lastly, number 5, when you have finished paying off a debt, you first celebrate, maybe over a special meal, and then you take that, say, $400 you were paying in the hospital and add it to that car loan payment. It will be tempting to now use that $400 that was going to the hospital on other purchases, such as clothing, travel, entertainment. But believe us, when you have paid off all your debts, the feeling of freedom is 100 times more rewarding than anything you can spend your money on. To quickly wrap up the rest of step 3, we need to focus on 2 other things. During step 3, we also increase our emergency savings to 3 months' worth of living expenses. Also, we try to increase our giving beyond the 10%, always remembering we're far happier giving than getting. Step 3 may take a few years to complete, but if you remain consistent each month, you will take huge steps in reaching your goal of financial freedom. If you have any thoughts, questions, concerns regarding step 3, please don't hesitate to contact us. Just leave a comment on this episode and we will send you our contact information. My hope is that you leave today's episode with a line of thinking, an idea, or a question to ponder or research that will impact your family life and your world of work. Make it a great day. Cheers.